Hello, my Aloha tribe, and welcome to the Aloha Perspective. Sorry for that look when you first came live, but it froze at 1. I'm like, of course, the minute I raise my eyebrow, it just says, okay, we're ready. I guess I just wanted to start out with a little bit of sass. So anyways, I'm going to talk about today's Tuesday thoughts. And I'm going to move away from the self-awareness cards for today. Like I said, that the last 34 or 26 cards are going to be a little more sporadic and probably come up as necessary, because that's kind of what self-awareness is, right? It just pops up whenever, we kind of need to tune back in. So for now, I'm going to talk about change, a little bit about change today. And we're going to start with the morning mantras. All right. I love these. I think we're just close to halfway through this deck. So today I'll notice all the little ways I'm loved, nurtured, and supported. Go ahead, universe, that's your cue. Go ahead, universe, that's your cue. So today I'll notice all the little ways I'm loved, nurtured, and supported. And then it says, go ahead, universe, that's your cue. So there you go. I mean, even the cup and the cookies and the little steam from the cup are just so cute. And, it does remind us to look at the little things. Sometimes people look for the grand gestures. And it's not always, to me, it's not about the grand gestures. I mean, they're wonderful things. But if we're constantly looking for that, we're missing all the little things, all the wonderful little things. Maybe, people bring you flowers, regardless of who they are. And you're like, oh my God, that's amazing. But are you waiting for the roses? Or are you just happy that somebody just happened to bring you flowers because they thought about you? It's not about how much somebody spends. It's not about how big the gift is. It's about the fact that somebody thought of you to do it to begin with. Have you done anything for anybody? Have you gone out of your way to make somebody happy like you expect other people to make you happy? It's a two-way street, and we get what we give. So if you're feeling like, oh, well, then think about whether or not you're contributing to that, whether you're or not, you're just a receiver and not also a giver. We should be always givers and receivers. It's okay to receive. It's okay to say thank you. And, no, you didn't have to do that. You know what? I do that all the time. But when people say that to me, I'm like, seriously? So it's like, it's a balancing act for me too. I'll be like, oh, you didn't have to do this. But like I said, when, on a repeat, when I do something for someone else and they say it to me, it's kind of like, really? Stop it. So good morning, older sibling. So again, today I'll notice all the little ways I'm loved, nurtured, and supported, which means universe, get going, hurry up, do your thing. But again, like I said, I love that little card, or I love the little picture on the card. It is. These are the small things. And to me, the small things are the best things. And, it's like I said, it's not like as humans, we're not going to love the grand gestures. We're always going to love the grand gestures. But when we look at the small things, they make those things that much better. Because we're appreciating the small things. And like I said, I absolutely love the small things. When people come back and they bring me pens, people are like, I think when people think that when I talk about pens, that they think I'm talking about pens like, oh, I put it away. So like my Club 33 pen or something fancy, but I love these pens because somebody thought about me. I crossed somebody's thoughts because they're like, oh, Shelly loves pens. I'm going to get her a pen. This one came from the Volcanic National Park in on the Big Island of Hawaii from baby sibling. And I didn't ask her. She just remembered. And then she's like, oh, yeah, I got some pens for you. So, and even a former coworker of mine, she still does it. She still brings me pens on her little trips. So that's always fun. And like I said, it's not just about being in someone's thoughts. It's the fact that somebody cared enough about you, that you're important enough in somebody else's life that they thought about you. Now, not everybody thinks about that. That doesn't mean they don't care about you. I'm just saying when it comes to the little gestures, the little things, they're sometimes the biggest things. All right. So notice the people around you that are loving and supporting you, and be grateful, say thank you, be kind in your words. So let's get to change. today's, like I said, is Tuesday Thoughts. And so I am a huge fan of The Big Bang Theory. I was fortunate enough to see them several times at Comic-Con. I was kind of a latecomer to it, so Sibling and I managed to catch up, but we did get in a good. Actually, I don't think we were that late to the game. We were probably only about a year or two late to the game, but we were late to the Comic-Con game. We were late to the, oh my god, they're at Comic-Con, which, duh. When you stop and watch the show, you're thinking, how the hell did we not know this? But, of course, their panels a lot of times would end up on the days of Hall H. And in my early days of Comic-Con, I was heavily into Hall H. Having to know before everybody else. That FOMO if I didn't. And I don't have that problem anymore. So, I don't know. Maybe sometimes we do. Sometimes we don't. I don't know. But I did have the opportunity to sit on a couple of their panels. And they were always fun. The writers. And it was actually the writers panel. So that made it exciting because I love writing. But like I said, this week I'm going to talk about healing and all this stuff, and I'm going to reference my first therapy session quite a bit because I want to destigmatize therapy. I want to destigmatize all this crap that people put on getting help for your mental health, because it's important and it's special, especially when you come through something different. I follow a woman on Twitter, Karen Unruh. And, she was talking, she posted something and it just said AFGO, right? And I'm like, what the hell is AFGO? And so I read the whole thing. It was AFGO, another fucking growth opportunity. And, it hit me between the eyes because of what I had talked about yesterday on the show, because I saw it afterwards. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Going through this journey again, but with different eyes. My therapist gave me homework, and one of the things was to read a book called The Body Keeps the Score, and the other was to write about what I'd been through from the beginning. And she says, since you're a writer, if you want to, this is the story of your life. And it's like, okay. So I figured I'll do one chapter a night until I feel like maybe I'm all the way through it. And I have been journaling. I have been doing that because I have a whole list of things I got to get through that I'm still working through on my journal just from therapy. So, and that was kind of my thing. But they're the questions that I need to answer so that my journey through this time of therapy is effective, as it for me it always has been. But this is a different type of journey now. I've been through the trauma. I thought I healed all the trauma. But what I'm doing, I think, and in my mind, is when I was just journaling, not writing in my book, but writing in my journal, I thought maybe, just maybe, this is allowing me to trust myself with my story. A lot of times our trust when we go through trauma of any sort is broken. And we don't trust people, we don't trust situations, we try to control everything because if we control everything, no one can hurt us, and then we don't have to trust anybody but ourselves. But really, is that the way to live? No. But a lot of us do go back to that. We go back to that trauma-based feeling because it's comfortable. It's like a binky, or it's like your little Linus blanket from Peanuts. I don't know if you remember Linus, but Linus always ran around with his blanket, And it's like your whoopee, right? Your whoopee. That's what I call my little things that bring me joy, like your comfort things, right? Like a blanket or your binky. Some people call it the binky, which to me usually means like a pacifier, but but I call it my whoopee. And all these weird names. But and I didn't come up with that. I got that from somewhere else, but I'm not really sure where, but I did. But I was talking about Big Bang Theory for a reason. We're at the point now where last night and the first episode today on in syndication are the last two episodes of the series. And I absolutely loved this show. In my personal opinion, it was one of the best endings I've ever seen for a show, for a finale. It didn't feel thrown together. It didn't feel, it was done so well. And, there were parts in part one that just really kind of hit me in the feels yesterday. And they hit me in the feels differently. I was telling older sibling that the part where Leonard and his mom hug, and you're just kind of like, whoa, they've come full circle. And, it's like one person learns to stand up for themselves. The other one learns, maybe I was a little too hard on you. And you feel that. And I felt it differently because I'm watching it now through really different eyes. But I only saw these episodes just, a short few months ago because obviously they cycle. At 5 o'clock Pacific time today will be the last episode of, the finale episode of Big Bang, and at 5:30 will be the pilot. So you're right back at the beginning. But that's just it. Life is kind of like being in syndication. It's kind of like being a rerun. But how do we move through each one? Obviously I don't sit there every night and watch every episode. I've seen every episode. I'm pretty sure I've seen every episode. But we do catch things. And then we sit down and we're like, oh yeah. Like, older sibling loves young Sheldon. I'm a fan, but I don't love it as much as she does. But, I'm working my way into it. But, there's a scene in the very first season where Sheldon feels like he's going to be all alone. And then they have this little montage of all his friends when they were all kids. And that one that's one of those episodes where it's like, even if we want to watch something, if we know that one's the one, we can't change the channel until that one's over. Because we think back when we're kids. That's the interesting thing about this show. And maybe that's why it's a little hard for me to watch sometimes, is because you're looking back at how someone became the way they are. What shaped them, and, trust me, I'm getting to the point here because I'm going to go right back to Sheldon Cooper of that show. And, you see how this kid is kind of forming, and how the people around him have to deal with him. And I don't mean, kind of tolerate him at times, because he's just so, he's so shut down emotionally, and he's just so factual. He's so, whatever comes out of his head, filtered or not, he doesn't have a filter, and he's just kind of like emotionless in a way. Like, well, I don't get it. His EQ is like super tiny. And, sometimes it hits him like, oh, maybe that wasn't the right thing to say. And he has his sister to kind of guide him through that, he has the parents and the brother and stuff, but it's his sister, his twin sister, that seems to kind of guide him through this stuff, to teach him how, to kind of give him a little bit of a footing, which is probably how he ended up sort of making friends down the road. And then was open to that change. But it's interesting to see how this one kid, in this one episode in Young Sheldon, how he's just, sitting there alone in tears because, he talks about all these things. It was the Nobel Prize announcement. Nobody showed up to his thing. It was like 5 a.m. Nobody showed up, and he felt so alone. And he thought he was he thought he was destined to be alone. And then again, that's why I said, they play the montage of all the main cast of Big Bang Theory, as kids. And like I said, when we go back and we look at our lives, we're like, there was a time when I think we all thought we'd be alone. I always looked at myself as an only child. And, by nature, I'm still an only child. But I have siblings now. I chose them. They were meant to be in my life. I would have never thought that when I was a kid. Because all the people that, I would attach myself to in grade school, they all kind of turned on me. Or they all just would bully me. And because of what I'd been through with my trauma, I just figured, okay, that's how they care about me. And my parents couldn't understand it. They'd sit there and go, why do you let them treat you like this? And it's like, I don't know. Because you just want to be loved. You just want to be cared about. And my parents did a wonderful job of loving me and caring about me. So, that's where it gets confusing too. Because it's like, well, my parents love and treat me this way. Well, maybe they're just supposed to because they're my parents. No. I see other people with crappy parents. My parents love me because they love me. Okay? And, moving through that, one of the things I talked about in therapy was how change scares me. I have a fear of change. It's like, I'm right there. I told her, basically, I'm here because I cannot seem to step over the line. But the interesting thing is, I didn't say that to her first. She said it to me. She's all, it sounds like, and I'm all, that's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is. But I had it written in my notes that I did not bring with me. So she knew. And I know that if she could see through what I was saying that I'm stuck, then, I knew she was the right person to help me through. But we all get that way, whether you have a dinged up mental health or not. Even if you don't have a dinged up mental health, therapy's still not a bad idea if you need people to listen. It is an independent ear, and sometimes they'll give you guidance. In this case, I'm grateful that she does because I ask for it. And sometimes they'll talk you through it so you can figure it out yourself. In my last therapy a couple years back, the intense trauma-based one, my therapist kind of led me through my story, with questions. How do you feel about this? And it's not one of those, how do you feel about that? It was like, how does this make you feel right now as you're talking about this? Because you seem to be blah, blah, blah. And if I told her, no, that's not where I'm at, it's like, okay, well then tell me where you are. Because I needed someone to walk me through that. I didn't need someone to show me the path. I needed someone to walk next to me as I, figured out this path on my own. But change is hard. And so I go back to the last 2 episodes, or actually the second to the last episode of Big Bang Theory. So if you haven't seen the show, it's been off the air for like 4 years now. So spoiler alert. All right, spoiler alert. Sheldon and Amy end up winning the Nobel Prize. And Sheldon gets excited. But what he doesn't realize is not only has he won this huge prestigious award with his wife, but yes, they get married. So like I said, spoiler alert. But he's not ready for the attention that comes with it. He's not ready for the change that comes with it. And then everything around him starts changing. The elevator works. That was hilarious. His wife changes her style. It's just all these things. And it becomes too overwhelming for him. And so, he kind of just zeroes out. He runs down the stairs. Penny finds him at the bottom. But they talk it out. And she's kind of, if you really look at the relationship between Sheldon and Penny in Big Bang Theory versus Sheldon and Missy, his twin sister, it's very similar. And I think that's why he navigates to her. I mean, obviously, the Young Sheldon show is newer. So I think they just kind of put 2 and 2 together and says, well, this is why we're going to make him migrate to Penny, because we're going to make his little sister just like her. Just, say what needs to be said and not worry about whether or not somebody's going to like it. She tells people what they need to hear, not what they want to hear. At least with Sheldon. And she kind of keeps him in check in a way. And then they all kind of learn from her, including his wife learns from her, like how to keep him in check. But they go to their old hangout, right? Because they're tying up loose ends. They're tying up all these small things. And here's the small things again. If you pay attention, you hear it. All the little nuances that they're tying up in the last 2 episodes. But they go to their old local hangout where they all really just hung out at the very beginning of the show. And they start talking about how they've all changed. And Sheldon's just like, I can't handle change. I don't want to change. Everything's changing too fast for me. But then Penny points out to him, but look how much you've changed. You came out of your shell. You got, you found a girlfriend. You got married. You did all these things. And then she talks about her path and how she changed. And he's still struggling with it. So I wrote this down. I actually had to look it up last night while I was sitting at my computer. But Penny says to him, the only thing that actually stays the same is that things are always changing. The only thing that actually stays the same is that things are always changing. And when we stop and we think about it, and we, those moments where we're so afraid of moving forward, well, what happens if I do this? What happens if I don't do that? How many times have we done that in our lives without thinking about it? We just do it because it's, we're like, okay, well, walking out the door every day, it's different. You're not wearing the same thing you were wearing yesterday, right? No. Or maybe you're not going to the same place that you went to the day before. I mean, if you're going to work, yeah, but people change there. People change their clothes there. People's attitudes may be different during that day. For somebody who had a great day yesterday, may be struggling a bit today. Maybe they had an argument, or maybe they stubbed their toe on the way to work and they just determined that everything's going to be bad that day. It's still change. It's small changes. And they're momentary changes. But when you really kind of step back and look at the big picture of your life, we've all changed. Well, I mean, we start changing the minute we're born. We don't stay tiny, we grow. You know, our hair changes, our eyes maybe change. Mine did. I was born with bone straight black hair. You know, I really pulled the Asian on that one. But as I got older, when I hit puberty, my hair started to curl. And my hair got lighter. And I mean, I was joking with my friend yesterday. I said, yeah, I was getting lighter to turn gray. But no, my hair got lighter and my eyes got lighter. Strangely enough, I went from having my mom's hair and my mom's eyes to having my dad's hair and my dad's eyes that, you know, got lighter and changed. I mean, his are a lot lighter than mine, but I mean, they change. We change. I started wearing glasses in 3rd grade, but then eventually I started wearing contacts, and then eventually I started wearing glasses again, you know, and, you know, we cycle through. And we do. We go in a way, if you stop and think about it, we're always talking about, I cannot go with the flow. I don't know how to go with the flow. I wish I could go with the flow. But again, when we step back and look at the big picture, look at us. We're all going with the flow. Sometimes we might resist the flow. And, you know, maybe there's a beaver dam there, right? Somebody put a beaver dam right in the middle of your flow. But maybe the water goes over it. You figure out the obstacles, or it goes around it. You know, I mean, beaver dams are great, but if the water's high, it may not always work. Maybe that wasn't the best metaphor, but you know what I mean. When we have obstacles in our way, we still find a way. If you're driving down a road and a tree fell, you don't just sit there and turn around and go, crap. You know, I mean, if it's small enough, you can move it. If not, maybe you do have to backtrack a little bit and get help. Get support to move that tree. Or maybe you have the tools in your car. You know, maybe you got an axe in your car because you're going to go chop wood at your cabin in the mountains and a tree fell in your way. So maybe you have to go back and get help to have someone move it. Maybe you take the axe out and you chip away at it little by little. But eventually you move that tree and you keep moving on your path. You know, and now you got firewood. So see, when you get to your cabin, you don't have to worry about it. But I like that quote that, you know, the only thing that actually stays the same is that things are always changing. That literally hit me between the eyes yesterday. You know, well, I should say figuratively, but it did. I mean, I felt it right there. And I think I felt it because even though I've seen that episode quite a few times, I know where I'm at right now. And I told older sibling, I said, I always see this episode at just the right time. The last time was as we were coming into the new year, and as we were coming into the new year, near my birthday, all this stuff, all these changes, and the changes were scaring me. You know, it's like, what is this next decade going to bring? Is it going to be as hard as the last one? Is it, you know, this, that, or the other? Am I going to finally find my pure bliss, you know? And I got overwhelmed, just like Sheldon did. And then I saw this episode, and it was that quote again. The only thing that actually stays the same is that things are always changing. And that helped me for a while. You know, and at that point, I already knew I was going into therapy. I just had to wait. I had to wait about a month and a half to get in there, or a month, just over a month and a week to get there. But I got there. And now I'm on a clearer path. Now I'm on a path that I know is going to be the best route for me. And I'm learning how to not just, you know, to make a plan for my path, you know, like a plan that, you know, part of the things that need the plan, but to also know that sometimes we're going to have to navigate around these obstacles. You know, here's a really good example. There was, way back in the day when we had to use Thomas Brothers guides, because we didn't have GPSs, we didn't have cell phones and all this stuff, the late 90s. Sissy sent me, I used to work for Sissy Joe. That's how we actually met. And she had to have me go pick something up in a nearby city, you know, for, because we had a bunch of engineers where I worked. And so that was one of my job duties, was to go run the errands and stuff. And so I go, and she gives me this map. And there's like a ... She's like, you just go straight through to here. Well, I followed the map. And the ... I mean, there's a nice big barrier there. And the road ends. So that's one lesson we learned that day. And, I was kind of like, really? Do you know what this means when I got back? But I didn't go back to the office and say, crap, how else do I get there? Because this is not going to work. This map, these dots, that's a dead end. But I have my father's sense of direction, so I thought, well, I need to be on the other side of that. So let me figure out how to get around. And of course, when I got back, she's like, what took you so long? And I'm like, well, let me show you your map, your stupid map. But it was a workaround. It was an obstacle. I can't remember if I got flustered at the time. I can't remember if I was annoyed. I might have been annoyed because I like to know where I'm going, but the whole point is that I didn't go backwards. I thought, you know what? I'm going to give this a shot. And if it doesn't work, then I'll go back to the office and we'll start over and try again. But I was successful. I made my way around and I got there. I picked up the part. I came back. I explained why it took me so long, to which we just kind of sat there, looked at each other like, really? And then just started laughing because it really was so dumb that we didn't know that. Especially when it's right there in the legend. So anyways, like I said, that was another lesson, but there was a workaround. There was an obstacle and I took a moment to take a beat. I took a beat and thought, all right, how do I get from point A to point B without running over this barrier and going over, a bunch of dirt hills that I think were up for construction. And in fact, I think there's apartments there now. But I figured it out. And that's what life is like. We're going to be thrown obstacles. Someone's going to throw up a dead end in your path. And we just backtrack and we find another way. And who knows? The way I found was actually a lot faster than the way I was told to go. So it worked out, and then fortunately someone invented the internet and poof, we got MapQuest. So, or Google Maps eventually. But, we got all these things. And it was just about finding our way. I think that's part of the problem with life now. Everything is so easy that we don't figure out how to get around obstacles. And we don't know how to teach people how to get around obstacles because everything is so quick, so instantaneous. Think about when you send someone a text message and they don't answer right away. It's like, well, why are you ghosting me? Why aren't you answering me? Maybe they're not answering you for like 25 minutes, but at minute 20, you're like, why are you ghosting me? Why are you not talking? Are you mad? Are you, did I say something wrong? God, maybe they put their phone down and went to pee or something. Maybe they put their phone down because someone came to visit, or maybe their other phone, a landline. We never had that term when I was a kid, a landline. That was the only phone we had. But, maybe they had to go answer their other phone if they have another phone. We do. Because I'll tell you what, if anywhere you have a disaster, we're probably going to be the ones people are coming to use a phone because we have a landline. We become so dependent on technology that we don't stop to think anymore. And I'm not saying that's everybody, because there's a lot of people who are very resistant to technology. They use it when they have to. But we have to learn that life isn't just about instant gratification. When we have that instant gratification, it's doing something stupid to our heads that says everything must be like this. Like if we don't, if we sit down and somebody doesn't bring us water in the first 2 minutes. Some people are just bad. And, when I go up north when I go up north, I live up north. When I go down to San Diego, my dad and I will meet in, a halfway point. And there's 2 places we go to eat. Okay. One place, the guy is right on it. The other place, it's like you have to pretty much tackle them to get any kind of service. Now, the one where you have to tackle them to get any kind of service, that is probably considered a little more high end for the breakfast area, because it is a well-known chain, just as the other one is. But this one's a little more unique and, whatever. But the other place, it's like, okay, thank you. Because it's somebody who is doing their job and saying, hey, but when we want that instant gratification, that guy who takes 2 minutes to bring you the water, you might be expecting it in 1. Or you might be expecting him to read your mind and just bring it. No one's going to waste a glass on, what you might or might not be thinking. So that can also affect our change. And maybe we need to take a deep breath. Maybe we need to step back a little bit from technology, lock up the phone for an hour or so, see how you do without it. If you start getting all wiry, then you need to kind of wean off of it. And I admit, I have used mine I've used my technology to help with my anxiety sometimes. But when I stop and think about it, it wasn't helping with my anxiety. It was basically diverting my attention away from it, which means the minute I put down that phone from playing a game, I'm back in my head again. And then I pick it up again and I start playing something else because I'm not thinking about what I need to do to move through that. I'm ignoring it. And I always know that when I need to journal or something, if I start picking up something or if I get distracted, it's because I'm trying to ignore what I know needs to be done. And I can't do that anymore because that's not helping me. That's not helping me one bit. It's not beneficial to me, and it's certainly not going to be beneficial to the people around me. As I live like a little lump on a log because I can't function. But change can be hard. So last night I looked up, ideas for change. And I found this one on verywellmind.com. And this is what I'm going to end the perspective with today. So on verywellmind.com, I found 5 tips for dealing with change, or how to get better at dealing with change. Number 3, I'm going to talk about a little because I agree but disagree with this one a little bit, just knowing, coming from a place of, struggling with change. So number 1, be mindful of the future to prepare for what may come. So you don't have to live in the future, okay? You don't have to live in the past. The whole goal of life is to live in your present. Be mindful of what may be down the road. That's planning. But not controlling it, knowing that, you may hit a bump or a pothole or get a flat tire on the way there. Things happen. So again, be mindful of the future to prepare for what may come. I think a lot of it is so you don't get overwhelmed. You don't freak out and be like, oh my God, I can't handle this. And a lot of us do. A lot of us feel that our mind just feels like it's going to explode if we have to deal with too much. But when we're mindful of the idea that, this is point B and anything can happen on the way to point B, but I'm going to teach myself how to move around the obstacles, redirect, go over it, under it, whatever you got to do. There's always a way around somehow. So again, be mindful. Number 2, focus on positives of change versus negatives. So last night while I can't remember what it was that hit my mind, but something started to hit my mind and I thought, no. I was very cognizant of what was happening in that moment because I had just finished journaling. I had just finished writing my first chapter of my story. And I thought, okay, no. I'm all like, no, because this is an old habit. This is an old mental habit where I start to go negative. And I wasn't going to go negative this time. So I thought, no, I'm going to just flip this to the positive. And that's actually what inspired me to look up and do a subject on change. And I thought, okay, you know what? That's perfect. That's what I'm going to do. And then I looked up the quote. I just pulled out my phone, pulled up the episode and, looked up the quote. And I thought, okay, yeah, this is going to be my subject for tomorrow. But it was because I was focusing on the positive of change versus the negatives. And that's why that quote from the Big Bang Theory really kind of affected me, because I realized she's right. The only thing that stays the same is that, things are always changing. The only thing that actually stays the same is that things are always changing. And that includes our mindset, going from negative to positive. If we can catch the negative things like a fish in a net, right? If we can catch that, then we can change it. We can start working on that mindset so that when these negative thoughts start to come up and start to try to control our lives, we can say, no, you know what? I'm in control now. You don't have a say, negativity. Not today, negativity, not today. Get your ass out of here. And so it can be hard at first, because I mean, obviously I've been working on this for a long time. And I really think that sometimes we're the ones who make it hard on ourselves. We're the ones who just, you know, say, well, I can't do this, or it's not possible. We make it hard. And then maybe the next day we're like, oh, hey, why didn't I do this yesterday? Because it's change and it's scary. And, you know, and change can cause us to worry. Change can cause us to be afraid. But again, when you step back and you look at the big picture of your life, imagine all the change you've already been through. And then you think, whoa, that's so true. I just didn't think about them because they happened gradually. You know, you blinked and poof, all these different things happened. But because they worked their way, playing the very long game of our life, it all subtly came through. And when you look back, you're like, wow, okay, I did that. And I did go through a lot of change. And perhaps that will give you the perspective you need to get rid of the negative thoughts and to focus on the, you know, the positive thoughts. So number 3, establish a daily routine to find comfort in structure. But I also but make some mental space for those moments where your routine may be interrupted or upended. I literally called this one a catch-22, because there are some people who struggle with a daily routine, or they get so hyper vigilant about a daily routine that when the routine is upended, they lose their minds. They lose their ever loving shit. And it's just kind of like, it's like their mind explodes, and not in a good way. Not like being, whoa, my mind is blown. No, their mind is like, it just disconnected. And then they're debilitated for the rest of the day. So my addition to this, establish a daily routine to find comfort in structure. My addition was make some mental space for those moments where your routine may be interrupted or upended. That way you don't, you know, maybe you have to take a step back and take a deep breath. You know, maybe part of your routine is that, you know, from like 6 to 7, you might read a book, you might journal, you might do this, you might do that. And maybe somebody wakes up. I mean, maybe you got roommates, right? And somebody knocks on your, hey. Or maybe you have a partner, or maybe a family member. Hey, what's going on in there? I see your light on. Do you have a moment to talk? And you can say, you know what? I'm reading right now, but I'll get to you in a second. If it's not important, sometimes you got to put things down because people might be having a crisis. But, or at least a crisis in their mind. But don't be judgy. Don't be judgy. When somebody comes to you, it's because they trust you. Okay? It's because they trust that you're going to listen and you're going to hear them and be there for them. But if you're a person, like I said, who is hyper vigilant about that structure, somebody just knocking on your door might just throw you off your game. Like, oh, don't they know this is my time? And then you might get mad. Then you might get upset. And you may not even go back to whatever it was you were reading, because you've now let that affect your day. So again, if you're going to establish a daily routine to find comfort in structure, make sure you leave a little bit of wiggle room. It does not have to be it does not have to be a solid line, that straight line. It can, loosen it. It doesn't have to be a taut rope, right? Loosen the rope a little, give it a little bit of slack, because a lot of times everything we plan does not always go as planned. So give yourself that wiggle room. Number 4, seek out support from family and friends. As I mentioned, I'm very, very fortunate to have a very understanding group of people around me, because my journey has not been for the faint of heart. It has been difficult, and there have been times where it's just like I shut down, and I know that this is happening. This is my transition period from who I used to be to who I am now, without losing the fun part of me that used to be there. I want to carry that fun floof right through to the new process of where I'm at, to not necessarily me as a new person, because I'm not a new person. I'm just peeling away all the crap that I picked up along the way. It's like bringing your car in and getting it washed, right? But what about the inside? So, everything out here is washed in la la la, but I'm detailing. I'm detailing the inside of the car now. So, and I'm letting go of all that baggage and all that stuff that weighs the car down. So, that I told you I speak in metaphors, which is great because so does my therapist. So I told her, I said, I love that you speak in metaphors because I live in metaphors. But it's kind of like that. Washing the outside of the car doesn't mean that the inside of the car doesn't need some work or some help, or to be, cleaned. So seek out support from family and friends. And, I'm gonna say this because sometimes I hold myself back by thinking, because my therapist says, have you found love? Are you in love? And I'm like, no, and no. And she's, oh, what are you waiting for? And I really wanted to go into the whole, well, no one's gonna want this. But I stopped. And I think she knew I was about to say something because she immediately moved to the next question. And she wasn't going to give me the chance to answer that. And I liked that. I know some people would say, well, she should have. And it's like, no, I think she knew because something negative was about to come out of my mouth. But instead, when she flipped the subject, I immediately thought, you know what? She's actually asking me this question. So she's seeing something I don't see. And she's all, well, when you're ready, get out there. She's all, get out there. And it's like, okay, so don't worry what's out here. This changes. But what's in here is what, we need to work on. Because that's truly what you're giving to the world. In 40 years, my face is not going to look the same. It didn't look the same 40 years ago. Maybe a little bit, but what's in here is where we serve from, where we give from, where we love from, where we're compassionate and, giving grace from, where we're empathetic from, where we're patient from. What's in here? What's in our body? What's in our soul? What's in our heart? What's in our mind? I know people who have mental health issues that weaponize their mental health because they don't know how to take accountability. They don't know how to, they don't know how to take accountability, and they don't know how to change themselves. They want to change everybody else. Everybody else needs to do what they need for this person. So this person doesn't have to change, but that's not helping them. So they may look okay from the outside, but on the inside, there's a lot of work that needs to be done. Because again, hurt people hurt people. So if you can, find a good support group. If you don't feel like you have anyone in that, join a support group. Join a group on Facebook. Okay, I know a lot of people don't like Facebook, but there's a lot of good groups on there. Join one there. Step out of your comfort zone and let people be there for you. Some people may not understand what you're going through, but if they're a good listener, give them some grace. Okay, just say, I know you may not understand what I'm going through, but I could really use an ear right now. And you're my best friend. So, Number 5, practice self-care and regular self-check-ins. I have a mental health check-in for myself every single day. 8 o'clock on the weekdays, noon on the weekends. I know, just in case, right? Because sometimes I just like to laze about in bed. But never till noon. But I mean, it's like I want to make sure that I'm already into my day to see where I'm at. And maybe I should make more. Maybe I should make one for the evening, or the mid-afternoon, between that sweet spot between the afternoon and the evening, and say, where am I at now? Am I still in a good place? Am I still in that bad place where I'm at? So practice self-care and regular self-check-ins. So I think these are great tools, honestly, to use and to implement in any way you know how. And if it's not something you want to implement in your life, that's okay too. You can look at these and say, you know what, that may not work for me, but this might. So you're already coming up with your own plan to help yourself through change. Change is not easy. Change is scary for a lot of us. It's scary for me. But again, like I said, when I watched that episode last night and they said, look how far we've both come, I think, whoa, you know what? Look how far I've come. I've come a long way. Even in just the last couple of years with all this healing stuff, I have come a long way. And I don't think I've ever given myself the credit of how far I've come. Because now I'm in a place where I'm going back through the trauma per my therapist, but I'm seeing it through different eyes. I'm seeing it through a different perspective. And I'm learning to trust myself now with my story, which is kind of extending outwards and me learning how to trust other people. You know, relationships, if you're in a romantic relationship and you do not trust your partner, or your partner does not trust you, isn't it kind of difficult? Because you're supposed to have each other's backs. So we have to communicate. We have to communicate honestly. If you're in a friendship, you know, do you trust that person? Because if you don't, doesn't it make it a little difficult? There are very few people in my life that I trust with my life. And it's not that I don't trust everybody else around me. It's just these people I know understand me. They understand what I've been through. They understand. And even if they don't understand what I've been through, they're just people that I think we're naturally prone to trust. But what I want to do is I want to open that door to trust a lot of other people, to say, hey, you know what? There's a fine line. Older sibling, who I know is watching right now, she jumps in feet first, and then she learns how to trust, which I think sometimes is a good thing, but not always a good thing, because some people are sketchy. So use your spidey instincts. Don't just hand out trust like it's a flyer. Yeah, see, she her laughy emoji here. Don't just hand out trust like it's a flyer. Make sure you can trust this person. Don't worry about if they're going to break your trust down the road. Don't worry about if they do break your trust down the road. Because in this moment, you have learned to trust somebody. You might be somebody who broke someone's trust, down the road or at that moment. So it's a two-way street, right? But if I take where I'm at and I take what older sibling does and I meet it somewhere in the middle, that's the perfect recipe for trust. Believing that people aren't going to hurt you, as opposed, and just opening yourself to that change. But also using your spidey instincts, not just, like I said, not just giving away your trust like it's, a flyer for a free, sandwich if you buy one, right? No, you're feeling this out and you're saying, okay, I'm not going to hold you at arm's length because I do trust you. And it's a very honorable place to be when people trust you. And I'm grateful because there are people that trust me. Sometimes I tell them I don't know why, but hey, I can keep a secret like Fort Knox. Some people think I can't, but I can. And I have. There's a lot of things in this world that it's just like, but, So anyways, that's change. That's change for today. That's our topic. That is it. And, like I said, just every time you start to feel overwhelmed by change and you think, I can't do this, take a step back. Take a quick inventory of your life and how much you've changed, how things have changed in your life. Even if it's something small and minute that you may not have even paid attention to, it's change. You don't drink the same cup of coffee every day. You may use the same cup, but it's not the same cup of coffee. Especially if you just do a free pour of your creamer. You don't know how much is in there. I mean, I know some people are pretty anal about that, but I just pour it in until it's the color I want it to be. And that can vary from day to day. So you just got to give yourself that break. Go back to the small things and say, whoa, okay, I did change that. Maybe your hair is different. Maybe maybe you wear a different cologne today or a different perfume today, or maybe different eye makeup today. Those are all changes. Because it's not the same as yesterday. It's not this, routine thing. And there are people in this world who have OCD. And, I'm not saying anything bad about them, because that is a true disorder. But think about that sometimes when you're not in the situation they're in. But, think about that movie, what's it called? So I'm going to say it, and if it's wrong, older sibling knows it. I think it's As Good as It Gets, right? With Jack Nicholson and Helen Hunt and Greg Kinnear and Cuba Gooding Jr., right? And he's got serious OCD. He's got serious OCD. But over the course of the movie, it's just like Sheldon Cooper. You start to see them change. You start to see them open up. You start to see them trusting the people around them when that is not something that's easy for them to do. So I know those are just scenarios, and I know they're fictional scenarios, and there are probably people out there with OCD that go, oh, it's nothing like that. I don't know. I'm lucky that I don't have it. Older sibling has a little bit of it. And I was not a nice person sometimes, but I didn't take it seriously back then, and I was kind of a hurt person, hurting people without realizing it. And I would just mess with her with certain things that she would stack, and then it would really mess with her psyche. But one time I did it, and I mean, I heard her reaction. I never did it again. Because it dawned on me. It's like, wow, that wasn't very nice. That was kind of mean. But I was struggling with my own mental health, and I didn't even realize I was struggling with my own mental health yet. But it seemed funny, but it wasn't. It wasn't. There are a lot of jokes that we play that we think are funny and probably are not. And I should have known better, because I was usually the butt of the jokes. But we learn over time, and we get better. That's how we get better. We learn and we correct. We don't overcorrect. We don't undercorrect. We correct. And sometimes we might over or undercorrect, but we correct. And once we get it correct, once we do correct in the correct way, we move forward with a better understanding. And that's kind of where mental health is. We move forward with a better understanding of what people go through. So at no point do I really want anyone to feel like I was picking on OCD people, because I was not. I don't know what it's like to be that way. I've had moments where I almost was when I was a kid, flipping on and off the light, making sure everything's turned all the way until you hear it click, so that, it helps your brain know that everything's okay. And I was grateful that I grew out of that. I know somebody who is in therapy right now because they were starting to have these tendencies. And it was just, kind of catch it when you can. So we all struggle in one way or another. And I know for a lot of us who do have a dinged up mental health, change is hard, but change is inevitable. Change really is inevitable. And that's the textbook way, I think, of saying it. Whereas the way Penny said it on The Big Bang Theory is that the only thing that ever stays the same is that things are always changing, was really the more understandable, compassionate way in my mind. Because you're putting it kind of in layman's terms, just saying, no matter what you do, things are always progressively changing. They're moving forward, they're progressing forward. And we can sit and stay stuck in the past, or we can heal ourselves and move forward with the change. The change is the flow. Going with the flow is going with the change. We just call it the flow because it sounds prettier, right? But going with the flow is going with the change. And there's nothing wrong with that. Yes, it might get scary. That's why there's those tips. Take a step back, look at the bigger picture, see how far you've come, and just, if you have to, take it one step at a time, one moment at a time. Some people are able to do it one day at a time. Some of us just have to take it one moment at a time. And there you go. A sibling put it a different way as well. The only thing that is consistent is change. Okay, so I hope everybody has a wonderful, wonderful day. Tomorrow is Self-Care Wednesday. I will try to come up with something good and different for tomorrow. My Self-Care Wednesdays do tend to move in towards mental health, but I do try to we do open up with tips and stuff, and I don't always say we. See, this is what I mean. I've got to bring these two people together that are inside of me existing into one person. So, and by that I mean, there's like this inner child in me that's really just kind of healing now. And I need to figure out how to integrate that healing into my adult brain. So, anyways, tomorrow's Self-Care Wednesday. I hope everybody has a wonderful, wonderful day. Take care of yourselves, okay? Like I said, whether you have a dinged up mental health or not, it doesn't matter. Keep listening, keep watching, because even if you don't have a dinged up mental health, this may help you understand how to, you know, be there, you know, be patient with sometimes people who do struggle with mental health. It can help open your mind to help you understand them. Or maybe there's something in there that might hit you between the eyes. That doesn't mean you have a mental health issue. It just means that maybe you're going through something. It's like, oh, you know, I swear I get messages from the weirdest places. Billboards, music, movies, TV, all these strange places. People open a book to look for a message. I get them all over the place. You know, even a license plate sometimes. You know, I mean, I was struggling with trust a lot last week, and I just passed a car, or I was stuck behind a car at a light, or I was stopped behind a car at a light, and the license plate frame just said trust. I mean, the bottom part was broken off, so trust, you know, it said trust in. Trust in what? But maybe that's just it. Trust in the flow, the change, fill in the blank. You know, maybe I should have looked at the numbers on the plates. I don't know, because I love numbers. I'm a numerologist at heart. But yeah, just signs are everywhere. The messages are everywhere. We just have to open our eyes to see them. Okay, so I will see everybody back here tomorrow, 8:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, or whatever we're at, Pacific Time. Facebook Live, all lives are public, under Shelly Marie Lucas. Shelly Marie is one word. There's only one E in Shelly. And anybody can watch. Anybody can watch, or I share it to my Facebook page, the Aloha Perspective, and I upload it to YouTube, where you can click and subscribe. If, you know, even if you don't want to, please do it anyway. I'm really trying to get to 50. I know, people are like 50. Yeah, like I said, I'm not going for the numbers. I'm going for the message. You know, one day maybe the numbers will take care of themselves, but for now, it's about the message and putting that message out there. All right, and whoever, you know, like I said, even if we help just one person, that's magic. That's accomplishment, because that one person will go off and help someone else. You know, it's that beautiful domino effect. So again, have a great day, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. Hang in there today, okay? If you're having a rough day, hang in there. Tomorrow's hump day, so yay. All right, have a great day, everybody, and thank you again for watching.